I've been in your waters. I know I can for sure. I've never been so close before. It's one way or the other.
Paper is. For when you're feeling kind of bony.
Hey, what do you mean by that? What are you trying to say about my skin?
Hello and welcome to Lunch Therapy. Yes, I am back in the saddle. Things are a little discombobulated because I came all the way back from Seattle, Washington. Had a great time up there. Was able to see my parents. It was my dad's birthday, so we all celebrated that in Edmonds, Washington. And I am back with an incredible guest, Andrew Cornelius. Hilarious comedian, teacher of comedy at Cool Beans, which is an outfit that runs out of the Ice House, teaches comedians, gives people an opportunity to do stand-up comedy, find their comedic genius, as one of our guests said, Adam Bloom said. Hoi, Guignel. Great to see you here. We have a wonderful community of what we call hummingbirds, which are people who are watch the show. We have a show on Friday, and that's today. That's when we have a guest. And then on Tuesday, it's me and Mama J. Patterson doing contests, variety show, stand-up comedy. We bring on comedians. Sometimes people can even call in on the Zoom. Today, while Andrew and I are talking, feel free to comment down below. Maybe if you have any questions or maybe suggestions, or you want to crack a really hilarious joke, that is welcome. It's also a good place for you to crack a really stupid joke too. We love that as well. Apparently the sun is shining in Seattle today. Everyone's taking the day off. I was witness to the atmospheric river up in Seattle when we were there. Kind of a nice break from Los Angeles. Los Angeles right now feels like summer. It's like warm. The doors are open. It's kind of balmy. Very exciting. Todd says, don't forget to send your email to the hummingbirds with 5 items you accomplished this week. I'm accomplishing something today. I'm not going to buy anything from Amazon or Walmart or anybody today. Today I am going cold turkey on the big box stores and big billionaire conglomerates. That's what I'm doing today. If anybody wants to join me, I think there's a lot of people out there doing it as well. Let's get into this thing called Lunch Therapy. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 Howard Ronan is here. He's one of the great supporters of this show. And I want to say these up here are the Patreons, which are monetary supporters of the show. You can become a Patreon at patreon.com/Joel Marshall. Howard says he always wished my parents would have named me Marshall. If I would have had kids, I would have had Marsha and Marshall. Marsha and Marshall. And their middle names would be Hendricks. Let's see here. Kamala says, yes, try not to buy anything today and remind corporations that it's people who allow them to exist, not the other way around. It's weird though, like if you don't buy stuff today, You might make up for it later on in the week. So whatever you were going to buy today, never buy it, ever. Patreons, Mike Knox, Todd Lee, Camila Lopez, Liz Lopez, Robert Lopez, Jay Patterson, the amazing Jay Patterson, Ivy Palma, Pam Palmieri, Neil Phillip, the amazing Seth Word, Jason Edelman, and Mary Marks. Hey, corporations are people too. I think that's the problem. But we don't talk politics on this show. This show is about love. I want to say thank you to the amazing Crepe Race for sponsoring the show today. Boney and Joe Fury were at the top of the show. Advertising, Crepe Race, make that crepey skin go away. Behind me is Healing Vibrations. Healing Vibrations, that is Travis Schumacher and his cat Perseus, providing the sound bowl relaxation at the top of the show. This is for me, as well as you. Corporations need attorneys, right, Guignel? So do people. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. We're all sucking off the teat of something. Right, Guignel? Right, Todd Lee? We're all a bunch of hypocrites, but we got to survive, right? In through the nose, out through the toes. Let it go. God knows this isn't paying the bills, my friends. But it is paying the love out there. This is a love show. Or as the French say, Peru. Boney is a perfect case study for removing crepey skin. I know, he's got rid of all of it. All of it. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. All part of the simulation. Look at Perseus, though. He's so perfect. Hard to believe he'd be simulated. Something that beautiful. Can't make that shit up. Can't make it up. All right. This is Marcel Hutter, all the way from Germany, providing some handpan for us before we bring on Andrew Cornelius. I'm so excited to have him on the show. He's a hilarious guy, funny guy. We have some similar backgrounds. We'll see how similar we are. Don't know. Todd says cats aren't real. That's birds. And I hope that you got your Enron egg to power your home from the birds aren't real people. I love this. I should be quiet while he plays, but I don't have the ability to be quiet. All right, let's get into this thing. Woo, Andrew Cornelius. Yes. A lot of you know who Andrew is. He has appeared at all the big comedy places like the Ice House and Comedy Store and all over the place here in Los Angeles. But he cut his comedic teeth with improv in Chicago and New York. He's performed stand-up comedy for over 7 years in Los Angeles. He's been performing improv comedy for 15 years. He's also an actor, a comedic actor. He's been seen in Comedy Central's Inside Amy Schumer, Nick Jr.'s Platty and Jackie's Mixed Up Challenges, Captain Hagen's Bed and Breakfast, which is streaming on Amazon. And he was the host of Intrigues TV, Just Eat It. Eat it! Tours the country, appearing at numerous comedy festivals as a stand-up comedian. So glad to have him here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Interview Friday. Look, I'm like a god or something out here. I'm going to get a god complex with this background. Interview Friday with Andrew Cornelius.
American institutions are failing. And tonight, I'm going to talk about one of those very close to my heart, Red Lobster. If you didn't hear, Red Lobster put almost 100 stores on the auction block this week as they closed down. A tragic, tragic time in America. I personally have a strong connection to Red Lobster because I grew up in Indiana, a place where there isn't seafood, except at Red Lobster.
There he is. Welcome to Lunch Therapy, Andrew Cornelius.
Hello, Joel. Hello, hummingbirds. It's great to be on the show.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. I breaking news. I understand that you are doing a show in Glasgow, Scotland.
That's right. I will be doing a show as part of the Glasgow International Comedy Festival.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So it is called Fake Friends and Real Stories. Let me just, there is a link in the show notes. It's on March 13th, 2025, 10 p.m. at the Arch 4 platform at the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. Yeah,
They're particular about the international. Maybe I'm the international in the International Comedy Festival.
How does it feel?
It's hard to know.
How does it feel to be international?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. It feels natural. This will be my second time going to Scotland because I have performed before at Fringe Festival in nearby Edinburgh. But this is the first time at this Glasgow International Comedy Festival.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Edinburgh experience? Because a lot of us are interested in that.
Oh, of course I can. Yes, I'd love
Oh,
to.
wait. Congratulations. Yeah. Tell us about what it's like to go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
It is a different experience for different comedians. The first thing to know, and sorry if this is redundant to some of the hummingbirds or your other viewers, but it is known as a non-curated festival. And that means there is no barrier to entry. You just go. But you need a venue or a place to perform, and you have to register so that you are in a directory so they know where to find you. But basically, the barrier to getting in is the level of where you're playing, the venue. So if you've ever seen Baby Reindeer,
We have a comment right here.
Yes.
May want to
the
watch Baby Reindeer before you go. One episode was focused on the Glasgow Comedy Festival. Is that what you were going to say? They jumped right in there.
That's right. Todd knows what they're talking about.
Knows
some performance venues are bars, some are theaters. That part was absolutely amazing. The other part that's really challenging is that it is a constant fear of missing out, because there's thousands of performances going on every hour. And so every hour you're doing a trade-off of like, should I even be sleeping right now? There's a show I'm missing right now. Should I even attend my own show? Is it not even worth it for 6 people? I could be seeing a better show right now.
So you have to do all the promotion yourself. You have to
That's right.
somehow get somebody that knows about it so that you find a good venue, right? I mean, did you do that? How did you select a venue?
I was part of a team, so I didn't. I was more a hired gun last year for Edinburgh,
That was
and
last year. Wow.
that was a fine way to do it because I had no experience with it and no understanding of it. And uh, through Cool Beans, the place where I coach or educate or teach, one of the students helped organize a trip over there. So they
Wow.
had the venue already taken care of, and we did a showcase style, meaning that like we were rotating cast of comedians who went through there.
Wow, that's great. Tell us about Cool Beans and how you got involved in that, because we've had a couple of people on the show. We had Corey and we had Lennon on here, and we heard a little bit about it. But what's your experience with it?
I've had a very positive experience. I know Howard. Howard is often involved with Cool Beans, and he in fact helped educate some of the kids. There's a kids program with Cool Beans.
Yeah.
So basically, the idea is that in terms of structure, it's 5 to 6 weeks of courses, meaning like you go up on the mic and do the stand up week to week, and for those who have little or no experience, it's a great process because we take civilians and over the course of the couple weeks, we help them develop a 5 minute set that eventually gets put up on stage on the night for a real audience. And it is typically a very positive experience.
So how do you usually teach comedy? What is your process?
Mm. It's a good mix between my boss, Corey Craig, who has appeared on the show, and myself. Corey is very much a writer comic, and I am very much an improv comic. I like to put it up on the mic first and refine from there. I feel like there's no better test than to shoot out those words into a amplified device and test whether or not a audience of your peers, stand-ups and otherwise, like help structure it. Also, that works well for me because it eliminates procrastination. There's no better way to test out the material than knowing you have to put it up in just a couple hours that you drive to the ice house.
So you really will improvise a set on the way to the ice house?
I've improvised on the mic before.
Yeah.
Yes, they're on I call it a structured improv, and I borrow that from the things I've learned at Second City. I know my way in. That's pre-scripted.
Yeah.
I know my way out. That's pre-scripted. But the middle can be murky, and that creates kind of like a magic trick for the audience because they're like, this is not pre-rehearsed. This is, if you can show them that this is not pre-rehearsed, they're like, how did you do all that? But really, I know how to get in and get out. So it's a risk management improvised comedy.
So interesting. That's one of the things that we've talked about on this show a lot is that a lot of times performance is like a magic trick. Like you're saying, like even the structure of comedy is you surprise the audience with like maybe a different end. Some of comedy is you start out one way and then you go off in a completely different direction than they expect you to go, and it surprises them, and that makes them laugh. And obviously that's what magicians do, and even actors do a little bit of a magic because the idea is you have to give the impression that you're not being filmed, that you're not in a play or in a movie or whatever, and it's a little bit of a magic trick to try and pull that off. I
think you've tapped into two things. Like one is like, yes, that the magic trick. There is a certain facade or a reason to be like, I'm doing the talking and you're doing the sitting, and then there's another reason, something that you tapped into. There is like, yes, that sense of delight. There is. I'm a big believer that is like every setup and every punchline has like. As a comedian saying, here is just enough information for you to know, and then you deliver a punchline. But sometimes it's words, sometimes it's your opinion, sometimes it's a rant, sometimes it's a rave, and the idea of that triggers that very sense of delight. They're like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh, and that I believe is the basis of every joke in every way. Even in cases where like very cerebral kind of humor where a delivery from the comic and then is the setup and then another punchline, and it sometimes takes them a couple seconds.
Yeah.
But then when they're like, I'm in on what he just said. Oh, I'm delighted. And that also produces that kind of laugh. Also, all my audiences are from the 1800s. That
Yes,
wasn't clear.
of course. That's,
I'm delighted.
very delighted. I had no idea that he was going to do that. So did you start working with comics? So you're from Indiana. Did you go straight to Chicago, or were you going
I
into
did.
Chicago?
So that's right. Right out of college, I moved to Chicago and I worked a series of desk jobs. And I was miserable at the desk jobs all the time. And I found joy taking classes in Second City. And one course led to another, led to another, led to another, till I felt like my true calling was better spent being an actor than it was spending it as a manager behind a desk.
And who were some of your people that you learned under when you were at Second City?
Let's see.
Or is there anyone in particular that you want to point out that was like inspirational to you?
Although there's so many. I'm trying to think of who might be most interesting or best for the podcast. I will say that the one that like when I was first starting out, Second City was great because they teach improv to sketch. They have a reproducible product every night, and that's why it sells out again and again. That is kind of a trick in itself, the sense that like when they make a review, a lot of people are like, that was all improvised. I'm like, it's not. They don't even pretend it is, but that's sometimes what a visitor from the suburbs watching a show might say, I can't believe that was improvised. And the answer is it was not. It was refined hundreds of times in practice. But there's an improv set that they use to generate the new material. And in the beginning, it always starts with a kernel of improvisation. So I found that extremely useful. I.O. was great for teaching rules of improv, and then
Improv Olympics.
That's right.
And that was also in Chicago as well, where you worked with them. Yeah, tell us about that. Sorry.
And that was no, it's quite all right.
I'm not trying to be smart. I'm
everybody-
trying to let everybody know that that's what that is.
Yes. So Improv Olympic, and their big focus is on a form called the Herald, which you may have heard of, you may not have heard of, but you already know it in your DNA because it's like a series of threes, and the idea is, and then branches off from there. And you see this in sitcoms at a 3-act structure. You see it emulated in episodes of The Family Guy. This idea of like 3 storylines going on at the same time, and then they cut back to each other. Seinfeld is a good example of it too. So it exists. This format exists in improv, but it also exists in comedy elsewhere.
Why do they call it the Herald? Is it Harold like a person's name, or is it Harold like an angel?
No, it is Harold like a person's name. And if I had been a better student of improv, I probably would have asked that question or had his origin story. Maybe one of the hummingbirds knows.
Maybe,
I don't know why it was called
Howard knows.
the Herald per se.
That's interesting. Yeah, we got to find out if anybody wants to
But that's
Google
their
that.
signature form, and it was invented by a guy named Del Close.
Del Close.
Del Close never taught me, but that was because he had died from years of drug abuse by that point.
Yeah, I worked on a show that he was in, and but he was not doing the heroin at that time, but he had he could show you scars. Let's just say that. But everybody loved, for him, improv was almost like a religion. When you hear people talking about, working with him, that it was, he held a very high standard for your commitment to improvisation that probably permeated. So was he working with Improv Olympics too, or just Second City?
He directed at Second City, but not during the time that I was there. But he was mainly about creating the Improv Olympic with Sharna Halpern.
Wow, I didn't even know that. Did you then go to New York City, or did you stay? How long did you stay in Chicago?
I stayed in Chicago for almost a decade and worked as an actor there, doing plays. And
What were some of your favorite theaters that you
I
worked
was
in?
at the the Actors Theater. There's one there. I think there's also one in New York, but that was one of the better ones. And then the idea that Chicago and its theater scene was there's very much quite a few black box theaters. So like it was a storefront that
Mhm.
someone had set up folding chairs and made a stage. And if you wanted to do a Mammoth play, you could. Like that's how, and like people would show up.
Yeah.
And it was this idea of like a working town puts together like this idea of a creative outlet. And there's like, well, there's no reason we couldn't mount a play in a storefront theater. Let's do that. And then our black box theater will fold after that's done. And the others went on to like have seasons. And it's like, yeah, it was very,
When I went to Steppenwolf there, that's where they were. They were in a storefront theater on Halstead, and it was tiny, and they were just becoming huge. That's why I started working in the box office there, because the box office guy had it, because all these people were coming in from like Evanston and places, trying to exchange their tickets and all this. You know, it was like a big theater running out of a storefront, and yeah, it was just too big for its britches. But they that was one of the things I loved about Chicago, was exactly what you're talking about. They had a kind of blue collar attitude towards acting, which was so grounded. Sometimes
yes.
too grounded, in that if they were drinking, they'd be drinking. If they were fighting, they'd be fighting.
Yes, I do remember there's a lot of commitment to method acting.
There really was.
Even loosely, it's like you're right. Yeah, there's like, yeah, if the character got stabbed, they might do it 4 nights in a row.
No,
Like,
they
it's
might.
a lot of wounds.
When I was
You
at
don't need to do
Steppenwolf,
it.
they brought a fight choreographer in, and they just laughed him out of the building.
Is
Of
that
course.
right? That's
Yeah, but after a while, they realized, oh, we do need that guy, because we're starting to break down. We're starting to become pulp, because you get in a fight every night.
yes.
Oh God, yeah. But I love that mentality, and also there seemed to be. I came from Seattle, so I was like amazed at how much theater was going on in Chicago, and how the audiences were pretty. A lot of people came to the theater, like not just like rich people, but everybody went to the theater.
Yeah, theater was accessible, and I don't know if it's because of the like a transportation system that works, or a public transportation system that works. That might be a factor to it. Like it was like,
It might be the weather too.
yeah,
Because somebody was saying to me, in Seattle, it rains a lot, but they were saying, in Seattle, you can go out into the mountains, you can go to the ocean, you can do all these things. But in Chicago, once the winter comes in, you're kind of stuck there. And,
yeah, you're not
what
going
else
to go to
is
the
there to do?
lakefront and play volleyball.
Yeah, right.
That you'll slip into Lake Michigan if that's the case. It is on a slope for those hummingbirds who have never been there before, and
Did you?
it does ice over.
It does.
So
Oh, God. Did you ever, you didn't do stand up then, though. You were just doing improv, right?
uh, I did stand up first before I did improv,
Yeah.
but that was more an accident than anything.
What happened?
Uh, I was at like a student show at Nevins Live in Evanston, and it was like a talent night or something like that. And I just went up and I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And then I didn't do it again, or if I did, it was so bad that it didn't go as well as the first time.
Yeah.
I know that's other comics have a similar trajectory. It's like
Yeah.
when you don't know rules or training or anything like that, you have like a sense of you suspended that sense of self-judgment because you don't have it
Yeah.
in your core, and you just go out there and put it out there, and it often works very
Yeah.
well. And then as a reminder, I teach Cool Beans, and I'll snap that shit right out of you in 6 weeks.
But a lot of times you go to see a showcase of people who've never done stand-up comedy before, and a lot of their sets are really solid.
Yes.
Really good, because I guess they've had all this life experience and they've put it into 5 minutes. And also there's just the thrill of going up there for the first time, and your friends are all there, and your friends are there too. Your friends haven't gone, another comedy show? What? How often are you going to do these things?
Yeah, that's the challenge. Like, when are you going to give up on this? And like after a while, the friend well dries up. Like you dip that bucket down. Like, I'm not driving an hour to see you do 5 minutes. Like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah. That's, Matt says he's talking about Seattle theater and how they have actors equity actors there. We had equity actors in Chicago too. It's just that there's so much non-union work going on that when you become equity, it's kind of a trade-off. They're not like here. Maybe they are like that here now, where they have 99 seat theater where you can do, small plays, even if you're equity. I don't know, but I remember that being a real trouble. Are you?
I do too. That's not that. Like, I was not in the union when I lived and worked in Chicago. I did a lot of non-union kind of stuff, and I think that might have to do with the do-it-yourself. Like we weren't going to get paid anyway, or we were going to get paid in beers, and that was there's not going to be a big contract negotiation. We were either going to do this or not. Yeah.
Something really nice about that, though, because it's sort of like college football maybe was. Maybe it's not like that anymore, but they're doing it for the love of the game. And we were doing it for the love of the game. Nobody was going to get a sitcom out of it. Nobody was going to, eventually these people came to Los Angeles, a lot of the people from Chicago, and we see them in all these different things. But at the time, when you're in Chicago, you might get a bit part here and there, at least when I was there. You might get a bit part in something that's in town, like a John Hughes movie or something back then. But you weren't going to get a major role unless you were in Los Angeles. That probably has changed a lot.
Yeah, I wonder about the union status. I don't even have any insight into that now that they have all those NBC One Chicago programs. But the time I was there was from like 99 to 2010, and that during that time, like you described, like the big summer blockbuster would come into town, and that would be the actor. Like, every actor would be auditioning for a Michael Bay role in Transformers, just to be a guy with a clipboard watching Megatron come to life or something like that. That would be the highlight of like someone's summer.
Yeah, you got a role going. Oh, wow. Matt says, just like we were doing punk rock for the love of the game, then the grunge explosion got all over us. Matt was in the grunge scene. Well, he would not want me to call it the grunge scene, but right when it got super popular, which Chicago actors got very popular and are still popular today because they're all over the television and they're all over the movies. I know when I was in Chicago, Gary Cole was there, and I was remarking the other day about how Gary Cole has like 2 acting careers. He has one where he's like really serious, like policeman, and then he has another one where he's just a buffoon idiot. It's almost like 2 different people.
Yeah,
I love that about him.
Yeah, very rarely do actors like go between the two. Like, John Goodman might be another one where you're like, oh, this guy could be a sinister or a doer, and then the other time, like, what a dolt.
No, usually they can't get away with it because when they try and do something serious, you're like, oh, you're kidding me. But for some reason, some actors can do it, and maybe, I don't know, it's a tribute to him, I guess. I remember Leslie Nielsen when he started doing those airplane movies. He couldn't do anything serious after that. He was totally a serious actor up until that point, but then after that, you just think he's gonna, he's pulling your leg. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a clip of you doing some crowd work here. Let's take a look at that.
Dog driving. It's not what's going to happen. Even in a Hollywood adjacent place, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Did you order a drink, sir? Okay. Did you get the spicy margarita? No? What did you get?
I get a Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir. Good choice. Wine. I'm waiting for that wine to hit because for future comics, right now, this guy is either cold or not interested in the jokes. From my vantage point, I see this. There's no way that dog drives. Not a chance. Get that Pinot Noir to that guy fast.
How often do you do that? Do you talk to the audience like that? And how does it ever go terribly wrong?
That's a good question. Kind of like that I'm going to reveal the pieces to the magic trick.
Yes.
Like magicians should never reveal their secrets. But in answer to your question, I love to do something like that.
Yeah.
That comes from like the decades of improv, being like, but that is me signaling to the audience that this is done without a net. I'm teaching the audience all of a sudden that we are not on a scripted part. That this is this. They see the same thing I see, and I am doing this without a net. Do I do the whole show like that? No, it's unlikely. But I try to definitely throw some into the top or use it as a callback later. The kind of sets that I do in Los Angeles tend to be the 5-minute sets. So often I do stick to the scripted stuff for those kind of things. But a lot of the festival appearances, what's great is that you either do 2 nights back to back or you do longer sets. And by that, I mean 10 to 15 minutes. And so you can do a 5-minute set and then talk about your experience wandering around the town that day. Talk to the people in the front of the audience. Does it ever go wrong? This is not to seem braggadocious, but rarely. But that's also because I have bumpers on, bumpers in the bowling lane. It's unlikely to go into a gutter situation. I don't hand the mic like, what's on your mind?
Right. Always, if you have a mic, you talk louder than they do, at least. Like that guy made a comment, and then you were kind of like, okay. But if he was drunk, he could have been gone on and on and on and on.
Yeah, yes. And I can't remember what he said in that moment. Like it was like pithy and it was like more insulting. And so rather than usually I will respond like, and this guy just said, because the audience, they
don't hear
it on the mic. They don't hear it either. So only the first 6 people hear it. Yeah. And that's most of the time with a crowd work situation. So you kind of load in how you repeat it or echo it back so that everybody else is on the same page.
Mike
and
Knox
in that case,
I
just was like, shout out to Mike Knox Comedy.
Knox, yeah.
I saw he is a Patreon supporter.
That's right. So
keeping the lights on, making this possible. And a good friend of mine who helped me find shows in the middle of the pandemic and gave me, some Tic Tacs.
Really?
Keeping my breath fresh.
Mike gave you some Tic Tacs? That's cool.
Yes.
He's working up a storm as an actor these days. Yeah.
I don't know how, because he seemed to be very busy as a writer. Multi-hyphenate.
So you're saying you like to write from the mic, and I get that too. I feel like I like to write from the mic too, partially because looking at a blank piece of paper and words takes me out of the images. I don't know if that's why you do it, or tell us a little bit about why you do that, and if you ever do go to the actual typewriter or the computer typewriter. What's that?
Yes. Sometimes go to the. I rarely go to the actual typewriter, but
whether you pull out your stenographer machine or not. No, but do you actually go to writing, traditional writing, or do you always stay on the mic?
Okay, so that's an interesting idea. I do go to traditional writing, and I argue that I'm a very good writer, but I'm a terrible memorizer. So that's one of the big reasons. Maybe it's like the overdeveloped improv muscle and an underdeveloped reading a script and committing it to memory muscle has forced me into that kind of style of comedy. That might be a possibility. But there are times that I do try to write it out. I have, and when I do, the process is I load Final Draft and I write what I would think I would say on stage, and then I'll look at to make sure that the setup is as tight as it can be in the punchline there, and then I look in the action lines. I'll write hold for laughs,
you do?
And Andrew goes to a voice here, so that I know where the act outs are. So I do both, but in the process. There are shows that I will bunt on and do the improvised bit. Like it may not, I will take the hit that I know that it's not ready, but I also know that that's the place to work it out. A bar show, for example, is a great place to do that because when I, for our listeners, in case we don't use the same vernacular, a bar show is like often a place that has a microphone and a bar, and most of your audience is ambushed that night with the fact that you're doing comedy.
Yeah.
So if they didn't come to see you, I feel a greater amount of freedom to try out new material in those kind of shows there on the mic.
Do you also find greater freedom to incorporate them in the show so that they're paying attention? Or do you find that that helps, or maybe it doesn't help? I don't know, in a bar situation like that.
I would say it definitely helps. I had not stumbled on that observation myself, but yes, that's
Because you know the
100%.
bar, I mean, they got the TVs. There's so many different distractions.
Yep.
And usually you're not lined up in the right way. You know, everybody's sort of like, you know, they haven't packed everybody to the front like they do in a comedy club. So you're fighting for attention. There's the front door, people coming in and out. Sometimes the front door is behind you. You know, have you gone back to Chicago and done stand-up since you've been doing it out here?
Yes, I did the Chicago Improv Festival that's brought on by that's in the new IO center. So there was improv shows going on at the same time as stand-up shows, and I think they were trying to increase their stand-up material. And I did the long version of the clip that you saw before of Red Lobster.
Yeah, I love the Red Lobster. The Red Lobster stuff's hilarious. I wonder if I have any more Red Lobster. I do have, let me just see here. Oh, I have a clip of you acting. I want to play that for people because it's really fun.
Sure.
What makes a bass? What's a ball?
Come on, coach. We get it. When are we gonna actually play?
You want to play?
Yes.
You want to have fun? Yeah! Well, that's why we're learning the fundamentals. Let's start with proper sock etiquette. Note how neat my sock line appears. Now, that's fun. Foul ball. Well, that didn't.
Well, that didn't work. So that looks like a really fun show. That's like a kid show, I guess. Is it?
It is. It's from Nick Jr. and Jackie and Platty are like animated puppets, and so they
I saw them briefly at the end there.
Yes, they are the main characters. I would like to say that I got top billing, but the kids are tuning in to see Jackie and Platty, not so much the coach.
Yeah. Where do you do you see yourself? Like, are you developing any shows for yourself, or are you auditioning on a regular basis? What are your aspirations for yourself as an actor?
Yes, so like to me, the ideal, and I'll put it out there into the universe again, is like the idea of like The Office or BJ Novak's role on The Office would be my dream scenario, where half the year I'm working on the scripts and helping write the storylines and the jokes and making it happen. And then the other half of the year, I'm not the main character, but I'm a contributing ensemble member of that.
Wouldn't that be fun? Is that more and more common these days, I wonder? Or was that like an anomaly, that the Office and how people were writers and actors on that?
I
know you're Hollywood adjacent, so you can't really speak to it.
That's my brand.
That's your brand, Hollywood adjacent. I like it.
You're right. So close.
But tell me about Hollywood. You've peered in the window a few times, I'm sure.
Yes, from what I've seen, I think that is actually more common in a world of streaming shows because there are fewer episodes and the job of writer, producer, or before the cameras roll is shorter, and the time that you're on camera is shorter because they don't for those who are not familiar with like network television, which is your ABC, NBC, CBS, one of those 1 hour shows, the order is usually for 22 episodes. And it takes weeks to make any one of those episodes, sometimes more than a week. And that means like 40 to 50 weeks of the year, you're shooting that season. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Yeah. You know, Mike says you had your own food show. You're all Hollywood. I think that was in New York though, right?
Yes, yeah, that was. So there was a Guy Fieri knockoff show that I did called Just Eat It, and that one I was kind of like a head writer for by default because we didn't have a head writer. And it was me in the van on the way to the shoot,
Really?
looking up what are the questions that I can ask the people and what's notable about this restaurant.
I liked your man on the street stuff that you were doing too. You were interviewing people on the street sometimes, and it was really funny. And I don't know, are New Yorkers just more? I mean, obviously New Yorkers are more outgoing, but it's like you were talking to people, and seemed like they were improv artists as well, and they just seemed like random people on the street. But maybe it's something about the way your rapport with people, because they seem really, really funny and just relaxed.
Yeah, I'd like to say it's about my skill set, but I think realistically, it's that attitude of New York. Did you ever live in New York? I know you said
No.
Chicago and
I've
Seattle.
only
We haven't-
spent time there briefly. You know, I go there occasionally with my wife. My wife's from Brooklyn. And
Oh, well, then
over the years.
if you know her and her cantankerous family, then I'm sure you've met that there's a certain attitude that goes with New York and
Definitely.
the people's willingness to be on camera or riff with you. Or they all have an opinion.
And it's just a different feel than, I mean, people do Man on the Street here as well. And it's, of course, it's just full of actors and comedians and all that stuff, but it's like a different openness. It's almost like it's an attitude, I think. It's an attitude. Here they're like, I'm not going to sign a non-disclosure agreement or whatever, Here it becomes all. Do you ever collaborate with speaking of that, do you ever collaborate with other people on things like sketch shows or that kind of thing, internet thing?
Yes. So I belong to a group called The Sketch School, and I have a Thursday night writers group that we go in. And even last night we did like a round robin. So you bring your material and everybody reads it. And it works out very well. It's on Zoom, and it works out very well because it has good instruction and good coaching. And there's like the owner of the school sits in, and he serves as kind of the head writer, Mark Warzeka. And then the other nice part is that like, unlike here in LA, there's a lot of sitcom writers, and I have that skill set too. But it's hard for everybody to read a whole sitcom. It would take 30 minutes if we did a reading of it. Whereas a sketch should be like 4 to 5 pages, which runs 4 to 5 minutes. And that is a good round robin kind of skill set.
I like that. I watched a little bit of it on, they had one on YouTube that you did, and they had the script there. And then the other people on Zoom were just reading the script off the screen. It's really kind of cool. And you know what? So many times we write in the darkness and don't even have the script read aloud until I remember I worked on a short film, and I got Miguel Sandoval, who's just a professional, wonderful actor, to be in it. And he said, come over to my house and we'll read the script. And I hadn't even thought of that. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, let's show up on the set. And we read the script, and I realized this script needs some help, because once the words come out of your mouth, it's like stand-up. You can write things that you think are hilarious, and then when the words come out of your mouth, you realize, oh, that doesn't really come out of my mouth very well, or I would never say it that way. And it's just such a great thing to hear other people read it.
That is invaluable. It is, because what we do is different than improv when we do stand-up. And it's this idea that like in the lab, I'm there writing it. You've got your script, like you put it through, and like the filter in your head's like, this is great. Yeah. But it's not until you put it up that you find out like, wow, they love the transition and they love the setup more than they love the punchline. What a strange thing. Or like in the laboratory, this worked. You've got to put it up. You've got to get it out into the world to see if it does work.
Do you think in the same way that you think? I mean, I don't know if you think about joke structure a lot, but when you're coming up with your comedy, but do you think about joke structure in the same way when you're writing sitcom or sketch? With a setup and a punchline and that kind of thing.
I think that would be a skill that I would contribute in a team of writers for a sitcom, because it's not done all by yourself most of the time. Most of the time, sitcom writing is a team sport, and the position that I play would be a joke writer. So the answer to that would be yes. I would think of what information do we have to make this joke better, and where are the opportunities to add jokes? I'm always doing joke pitches, even in the sketches. If we have this toy, how else do we play with it?
Does that group that you get together with, do you all talk about how you can get yourself into the position that you want to get yourself in, the one that you were talking about where you're a writer, performer on a show that's actually you get paid money?
Yes. So the answer to that, and no one has to pay for a seminar. I'll reveal it now.
Yeah.
Is the idea is that you take the stuff from Thursday nights or any group that you're part of. You find your 3 best sketches. You put them together in a PDF, and that is your sketch packet. Unlike a sitcom spec, which is 30 pages, a sketch packet is 3 sketches. They should be of a different kind, meaning don't do 3 wacky neighbor sketches in a row. Show some kind of variety, and two real world scenarios and maybe a commercial parody. And you use that to get on. There are many commercial opportunities to write sketch shows these days. And you're like, you mean SNL? I'm not talking about SNL. Once you crack open the world of sketch comedy, you're like, oh, that's right. There were all these groups that existed in the 90s. And now there are also big opportunities. A lot of stand-up comics want to have a branded show. They want to follow a Chappelle model. And though they don't last that many seasons, quite a few exist on Netflix. Netflix is they love to take somebody that a bigger name comic than where you and I are at right now, and help them develop another show to support the specials that they're putting out. They want a web of comedy around that person, and sketch is a super easy and useful way to put that together.
So when you put together your 3 scene packet, 3 sketches, and they're all different and they're great, what do you do with it then? Do you go out and get an agent, a writing agent, and then they submit it? Or do you walk in the door at Netflix and say, I got these things? What do you do?
I think agents, in the last 2 or 3 years, agents are more interested in a sketch packet than they used to be.
Really?
And that is because they don't have to read as much.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound
No, it's
insulting,
true. People don't read as much.
They're like, I don't have time to get through a 30-page, but 15, a tight 12 to 15, I got time for I can knock that out in less than a half hour and decide whether or not we could shop this around. And so agents are more amenable to it these days. But the other people that you would you'd send that to are the late night writers. Frequently a writing packet for that includes a sketch, so that there's desk pieces and jokes and a sketch, and they want to see that you can write all of that. And the other part is that sketch has never been easier to this is true for the world that we live in a digital world where production costs have, as you and I broadcast a live show right now, should be evident, is that the barrier to entry has never been lower.
Yeah.
The challenge is in 2025 finding the audience.
It's just like Edinburgh.
The audience has so many choices.
Yeah, it's just like Edinburgh. The whole world is like Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yeah, the whole world is Edinburgh. If there's anything the audience takes away from today's, the whole world is Edinburgh.
Well, and speaking of that, is it worth it? I mean, you're going obviously to Glasgow, and you're going to Edinburgh. Is that a good way to be seen? Because a lot of these shows are coming out of there, like Baby Reindeer did, and Fleabag, of course. Everybody always talks about Fleabag. Is that something that's kind of a goal as well?
So that's not a goal for me. And that's what the joy of Edinburgh is. It can be a zillion different things to a zillion different people. And there are people who go there. There are people who were on the show that I was on, and they were deeply disappointed because they thought they were going to get discovered there. They thought they were going to sell their next Fleabag, and that isn't always the case. That is the case for some people. Like, I went to shows that I saw the suits in backpacks. And what I mean by that is somebody in a suit with a backpack that says BBC or Netflix on the back. Those people were scouting.
trying to blend in.
Yeah. It was so obvious because everyone's like in a t-shirt and like sweating because we're like in an old church with no airflow whatsoever. Suits. They're like, this show is amazing.
Sitting there in the chair with their backpack on. That's too funny. I love that.
So some people leave with a disappointed sense, but the other like last year, the only disappointment I had is that I didn't have time to try out more material. Like, I didn't realize I'd never in my life gone up 10 nights in a row. Like, you get home, you have a beer so you can come down and go to sleep. You wake up and it's time to get ready to go to the show again and do it. And like every night. So the material I brought got really good.
Yeah. And
there was the opportunity maybe to develop new material.
And
I think Hannibal Buress did this in his documentary when he went over there. But I stuck to mainly the same material, like over night after night. Like by night 5, I was definitely improvising and putting stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Like I talked about, like the structured improv. So in that sense, it also could be a great opportunity to develop something new. Or it could be a great opportunity to refine the thing that you have. Like maybe you've only put it up once. I promised you, after you've done it 10 times, like the script that you read out loud, you'll know where the problems are,
right.
And you will be forced to fix them because around night 4, you're like, I don't want to do this bad part anymore. I want to make it work.
I find that too with short films. Like you make a funny film and you bring it to like Seth Word's show and tell, and then you see it on the screen and you see the audience react and you feel the place where it's not funny or whatever. And then you go back. I just go back and re-edit. Nowadays, it's like nothing. You can just go back and you can take the air out right where it gets weird, you know? I mean, with a feature film, you lock it and there's color and all that stuff, and you don't get a chance to do that. I'm sure that must be really frustrating for the filmmakers out there that make these huge, blockbuster funny movies, because I bet they watch it and go, I could just tighten that up, or I could do this, I bet it's excruciating. Unless you make a perfect film or something, which never happens. I always wondered why people, like some directors, are like, oh yeah, I'd like to take another whack at that. And you're just like, really? The apocalypse now? Are you kidding?
Right. The idea of like the perfect film, like, yes, I am a happy participant in independent films. So if anyone's shooting something, I'm more than happy to, if I have availability, lend my skill set. But like in making films, if you don't like problems, don't make a film.
It's all problems.
It all is problems. Mostly, there's very little joy except in solving some of the problems.
I know. And some of them seem monumental. You know what I mean? Like it's like blow your whole day. It's always problems. Yeah.
There's always
you're
problems.
Guaranteed it's going to be a lot of problems. You're going to have to compromise, and you're going to have to just think on the spot, like really come up with some kind of thing. That's why it's fun, though. I mean, that's one of the reasons it's fun, too.
Yes.
And you never get what you set out to get. You always get something else. And then you work with that. But even the great filmmakers say that same thing. You always get something else. You get what you get. You have the movie you wrote, and then you have the movie you shot. That's what I had this guy who was the editor for Taxi Driver. And he said that. And he also said that when he started editing Taxi Driver, he never looked at the script. Because it's like, you got what you shot. You don't have that script. It's kind of interesting.
That is, especially like knowing how like Scorsese likes to shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like knowing how they like to shoot. Still, that's the truth. Great interview. 2 great comic minds. Thank you, Howard. I hear they're going to change the Herald to call it the Howard now.
That's right.
Because of all the innovations that Howard has done. This has been great having you on, Andrew. Unfortunately, we're at the end. We're going to have to dance it out. We're going to have to dance this. I have this interesting video that I want to show for the dance break. It's going to be kind of different. And you know the guy. I got to cue it up.
Just set up the drums here. Yeah, set up.
Okay, you know the guy. Do you ever watch the Police Academy movies? It might be before your time. Dance off.
No,
We're gonna have a dance
very
off.
familiar.
Okay, so the guy in the Police Academy movies, Michael Winslow, who used to make the sound effects.
Yeah.
You know that guy? He's still
Yes.
around. He's also a stand-up comedian. And he probably has always been a stand-up comedian. But I found this thing. It's on Senkveld TV2. And we're going to have a dance-off. Mike says dance-off. And it's him doing Led Zeppelin with a guy on an acoustic guitar. Odd Norstoga is the other guy. And it's just, I mean, I don't know. They might kick us off YouTube for doing this, but I think it's worth it. So thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to dance this thing
Thank you
out.
for having me.
Of
It
course.
was a real treat.
Good.
Great sharing of comedic minds and
right.
2 makers.
Two
2
makers.
comedy makers. 2.
That's right. In the thick of it. We're in the thick
That's
of it.
right. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, dance break time.
Which song is it? Which song is it?
Let me try to get this thing.
Yeah. What do you want to do? Led Zeppelin. And, you want to do the original?
This is the magic
artist?
trick. What do you want to do? You know they know what they're going to do. It's incredible, man. That guy.
That guy is all of us.
There's a mooch.
He's sliding down the neck of the guitar.
Yeah, exactly. See if there's a song.
Zeppelin in the house, yo.
I mean, who needs an instrument?
Creating his own feedback.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Michael Winslow. Shout out to him. Maybe someday he'll be on the show. Who knows? My favorite part of every Led Zeppelin song is the bay, 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 baby part. This is insane. All right, everybody. This has been Andrew Cornelius and Joel Marshall. This is Lunch Therapy. We'll see you all on Tuesday for more Lunch Therapy. Over and out.